Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Love Is Season 1, Episode 9, which was titled A First Script. So, if y'all thought last week was a trip, this week was a trip, double trip, okay? And I think we've all come to the conclusion that Nuri is dick whipped, and that is the only logical explanation as to why she would still be in this relationship with Yasir. So Yasir, he's steady pouring it on thick like he's this perfect guy, that he's her provider, her protector, that he's intellectual. He has all these great qualities, but his actions just continue to show us something different. So in this episode, we learned that Yasir has some jealousy issues, and that he is jealous of Nuri and Nuri's success and Nuri's having the job of her dream and what she wants to do. So Nuri comes in and lets Yasir know that the best thing in the world that could have happened to her has happened, and that is that Angela has gotten this writing job, that her and Norman wrote the pilot for the Whitney Houston show, and that the network has purchased it, and so now she gets to write those 2 episodes that Angela was supposed to write, and she's so excited. When Nuri comes in to tell Yasir, about her great news, you could tell by his body language and everything about him that he is not happy to hear that one more great thing has happened with Nuri. And I totally forgot to tell you guys, this was several episodes ago, where Nuri had called in the people where she was going to remodel her house, and she was trying to change some things up, add a bathroom or something. But anyway, Yasir was just kind of like standing in the background looking as Nuri was talking to the contractors, and you could tell that he was feeling some kind of way about himself, and that he was kind of feeling lowly about himself and feeling useless. And so that was kind of like the first sign of what we were about to see in this episode. So even though he's acting down and depressed, he goes into his survival mode, where he basically tells Nuri that he knew this was going to happen for her, and he pulls out this box that he writes down prayers and put the prayers in the box. And so he shuffles through the paper and he pulls out one where when Nuri had came home upset that Angela didn't want her to write on the project with her, he had written down, Dear Allah, please let Nuri get her first script. And so he gives her the piece of paper. And then, of course, she's all goo goo gaga. Oh my God, he prays for me and he really wants what's best for me, which totally distracts her from the fact that his whole body tensed up, his whole persona tensed up when she told him her good news. And so while Nuri is celebrating the fact that she is getting to write this script and finally gets to show off her talent, so me, on the other hand, was saying that Yasir, on the first episode when he got that job at the fake Barnes & Noble, couldn't take that uniform off, but then in the last 2 episodes we haven't seen him with the uniform on. And then how do you get a job and then all of a sudden take off and go to California, go visit your mom? So I just thought that was kind of strange. And just as I was typing, did Yasir lose his job already? Do we have a scene where he goes to the job and the guy who hired him is telling him that they had to cut everybody's hours? So he's going from 30 hours a week down to 18 hours a week. And so I was kind of upset about that, because I'm like, Joker, you went out there and you got the job. It was a part-time job, wasn't even a full-time job. But did you continue looking for a better job. No, you didn't. Instead, you done turned your little space where Nuri gave him that little area to turn into his writing room. You done went and took your first little paycheck and bought some stuff for this room. And like he done started peeling off the wallpaper and all this here to fix that room up, and then you're there working on that script. And so you're just content letting Nuri take care of you. But then when the white guy at the store finds out that Nuri writes for the Marvin show and suggested to Yasir that why don't you just knock her up and get her pregnant, and then that way then you could be a stay-at-home dad and she could take care of you, and then you could stop being out here trying to find a job. He was all offended by that, but I don't know if he was offended because he's been living off of women all his life. And then let's stick a pin in there because I was telling you guys some of Salim's background. And so I went back and I finished reading that article because when I was telling you guys about the article in my last recap, I didn't finish telling you everything that the article said. But basically, Mara is taking great liberties with this show and trying to make Salim look bad because everybody's thinking that this is their real true life story, but we know that this isn't because, as I pointed out to you guys before, that in real life Salim has 2 kids. He doesn't have one, and I don't think he's ever been married before. So adding on to his real story, at the time that Mara and him met in real life, he had graduated from film school, and him and this other guy were writing, and I actually might have pointed this out in that show, but it makes it more relevant in this episode. But basically, they were writing on a feature film that they were going to put in Sundance, and they actually finished that piece. They had $25,000 that they put into the project, and it was released in March of 1999 at the Sundance Film Festival. So the fact that she's making Yasir look like this deadbeat who's living off of women, who didn't have anything going for him, who needed her help to do all of this stuff is quite interesting. And so I'm wondering, because as we'll see in this episode, she does tell Yasir to kind of calm him down to finish writing the script, and then she'll present the script to Norman. And I think she actually also said that she would try and get him an appointment with her agent or something like that. But I'm just, juxtaposing this stuff together, and I'm wondering if the film that Salim did, if it was a flop, and then maybe that's when Mara stepped in and started paving the way for him and creating opportunities. And also he, when she was working on the Moesha show, he was actually working on Soul Food. He was a writer for the movie either the movie Soul Food or the show Soul Food. So there's a whole lot that's being left out on this show. So at this point, we really don't know what's fact and what's fiction. So now Nuri, has a very short time to write the script for the show, because remember, she's going to pick up on the whole pig thing and rewrite that episode. So she's got to be writing night and day and carrying on. So she's at the studio and she's working late. She comes in, he's sitting there, he's angry and yelling at her about, why didn't you call? Couldn't you just pick up the phone? And she's like, well, you knew I was working. And he says, yeah, but you could have called and let me know that you were okay. And so then Nuri was like, okay, where is this coming from? And then Yasir lets her know, well, where I'm from, where I come from is really hard, and I know women that's been raped before. And Nuri looking at him like, okay, you are really, really reaching right now, but I'm sorry I didn't call, and I will try to do better. Well, there when Yasir was talking about his scripts. So one of the scripts was called Mama Get That Money. So that probably was the one that Nuri was reading that night after the concert and knew that it was garbage and she wasn't about to present that. But as Yasir is just acting out and showing out on this episode, Nuri decides that she wants to invite him to come when they do the actual taping of the episode of her script, because it turned out, everybody liked the script and everything. And so she tells him, okay, well, bring one of your scripts. I'll introduce you to Norman. Like, she's really going out of her way to try and make this man feel good about himself. But my theory is Will, remember Will's the guy, the production assistant, he must be the one that put the person's name on the list, because when Yasir shows up that night of the show, he done borrowed Sean's truck and everything, so he can roll up like the big man. But the security guard basically tells him that he's not on the list. So then Yasir is thinking, okay, well, maybe maybe the driver's license had his government name, but Nuri gave the Yasir name. So the guy's like, no, that's not on here. You can't come in, back up, get out the way, get on from out of here. So then all of a sudden, Will appears on the golf cart, and he basically intervenes, and they let Yasir in. And so I'm thinking, okay, was that just coincidence that he showed up, and then he set this whole thing up to show Yasir that, yeah, you might have gotten Nuri, but I got the control, and I can control whether or not you get into this event or not. So Yasir goes, and he ends up having to park like in a back parking lot somewhere, because he wasn't on the list and he hadn't got there in time. It was just like a whole bunch of obstacles being thrown his way. So he finally gets up to the studio, but then there's this big black guy standing there, and the guy like, you ain't on the list. And so then Yasir's like, I just went through all of this. I am on the list. I'm Nuri's boyfriend. Blah, blah, blah. So inside, they are getting ready to introduce the cast and introduce the writers for the show. And actually, Nuri had to do a co-writing, because they also asked Angela. So then they introduced Angela as well. So somebody came up and was like, Nuri, there's a problem outside. There's a guy here, so he's your boyfriend. They're not letting him in. And so then Norman is like, don't let this guy ruin your night. This is your night. Like, don't be bringing drama on the set. I don't go for this. Like, so Nuri's like, I'm sorry, I'll handle it. So as she's going down the stairs to go outside, they introduce her, but then she keeps walking out the door. So now Norman looking at her like, so you gonna let this man interrupt the most important night of your life? So he's taking note. Nuri goes outside. Yasir is all in his feelings and everything, and basically, just acted the fool. And so Nuri gets him inside, but I don't even think he went inside. He was upset. He didn't want to go inside, but then by the time they got everything settled, the red light was flashing, meaning that you couldn't go back in because they had started the live taping. So not only did she miss her introduction, but she missed the actual taping, and Yasir is acting a damn fool. He done rolled out and kind of like left her hanging there. So then we have this scene with her and Norman, where Norman is basically like, girl, what's wrong with you? Like, what is this guy doing that's got you carrying on like this? And then the Joker rolled up here with a script in his hand. Like, what's wrong with you? So as he's chastising Nuri is standing up for Yasir, saying what a great guy he is, and just give him a chance. And Norman is like, look, girl, you got to make up your mind what it is that you want and what's going on with you, what's more important, and don't let this guy ruin your opportunity. And that if something like this happened again, basically you're going to be out of a job and be walking around with a script too. So then he walks off, but he has such a soft heart for Nuri and Angela. And then he said, oh, and by the way, let me see that script, see what all this is about. Is he even worth all of this? So then, of course, Nuri was all happy. So naturally, once they get back home, they have an argument. So Yasir is making a complete jerk, being a complete jerk, making an ass of himself, And so this leads Nuri to thinking that, maybe the two of them should take a break, that it was just too much too soon. So now he's looking like, oh, hell, I lost, my hours have been cut down to 18. I ain't got no money. I only got like a week left over there. And Ruby's, what am I going to do? So now in my mind, if I tell a man, let's take a break, that means that you need to go. And then we living together, that means you need to get your stuff and go. But then we have this really bizarre scene where Nuri's in bed asleep, and then all of a sudden Yasir appears behind her. So I guess he thinking he about to put the D on her and get her to change her mind about the two of them taking a break. And then all of a sudden Nuri just freaks out and jumps up out of the bed like, get away from me, get away from me. And I'm sitting there like, okay, is she dreaming? What's going on? So then she crawls across the room and balls up, so he goes over and tries to comfort her, and she's like, get away, get away. So, he's not going to leave her, of course, because she's in this fragile state. So he finally gets her to calm down. And then she reveals that for 3 years, between the age of 9 and 12, she was molested by her stepfather. Just random. So of course I had to go check. So Mara, I did find where Mara actually was molested as a child. And then I think Yasir said that he was molested also. Okay, so was he molested during the time that his mom was in prison? Because remember I told you guys in the last recap that his mother actually spent time in prison during his teen years, like high school years, and he actually took care of himself during that time. So did somebody take advantage of him during that opportunity, or is this just Mara improvising again, like trying to make herself look good while making Yasir look bad and look weak or whatever? So the show pretty much ends with him consoling her and everything, and I was just like, okay, this is so crazy. Then it looks like on next week's episode, the boyfriend that she met from college is going to reappear, and she gonna be hanging out with him. And I know that that's gonna show enough drive Yasir crazy. And I think next week is the season finale, so that should be interesting. But guys, whew, this show has turned out to be a trip. So that's it for me. Leave your comments below. As always, if I missed something, if I misrepresented something, leave it in the comments. Let me know what things stood out for you in this episode. Are you team Nuri? Are you team Yasir? Or are you just team love and happy that they figured out a way to make it work? And I can't think of any things from the wiser Yasir and Nuri that was worth interjecting, because like y'all know, at this point they getting on my nerves and they just filler. They just killing time on this show. So guys, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I should talk to you later. Bye bye.